call it A Long Game of Spiders, the year's best suspense thriller. As a message, I'm ruthless. I'm in control. Intense and mesmerizing. He's turned it into a game. A knockout with a surprise twist. It will keep you glued to your seat. You won't want it to end. Morgan Freeman is electrifying. A Long Game of Spiders. Mind is a terrible thing. Rated R. Today in theaters everywhere.
So this is based off of the Alex Cross series by James Patterson. It's actually the second installment of the series. First, of course, the first one was Kiss the Girls, which had Ashley Judd in it back in 1997. And the storyline of this movie is that Alex Cross loses his partner in an out-of-control bust. He stops working and can't forgive himself, and he's drawn back to work reluctantly when the senator's daughter is kidnapped, and the kidnapper seems to want to deal with Alex personally, and I think he could pretty much see where this is going to go from here. The biggest problem with these movies isn't Morgan Freeman as Alex Cross. Far from it. He's probably the best thing about these movies. It's the storyline and the mystery aspect that really... They take such a cool character in Alex Cross from the books and just give him nothing to do. There's no grand mystery in this movie that's exciting or engaging. You can pretty much tell who it's going to be right from the get-go, and it's like, where's the fun factor in this movie? Where is the moment in this movie where I'm supposed to be like, hey, this made it all worth it in the end? Even when they did it with Tyler Perry. Like, their first mistake there was casting Tyler Perry over somebody like Idris Elba, who was originally supposed to be in that movie. But then you don't have a good director in Rob Cohen doing that film in particular. And the biggest problem with these movies really is that the mystery is not that engaging or all that interesting. It's a really boring mystery. There's nothing about this that's interesting, and it wastes such good talent all around the board. Freeman, Monica Potter, Dylan Baker's in this movie as well. Michael Moriarty, Penelope Ann Miller, Anna Marie Horsford, Anton Yelchin's in this movie as well. So many good talents in this movie, but they're just wasted because the mystery or the storyline here just isn't engaging whatsoever. It's dull. It's really a dull movie. So much good talent in this movie wasted on a potential that has a lot of potential to it, but this character never really has transferred well to the big screen, and really it's not because of the character or the actor. It's just the world around him is not that engaging or interesting that would make people want to come back for more of these movies. Even though this one was a slightly successful film, more successful compared to the original film, the original Kiss the Girls, nobody really wanted to go back to this. I really would like to see what a good director could really do with Morgan Freeman as Alex Cross, and not what Rob Cohen tried to do with Tyler Perry 11 years later. But we'll eventually get to that one down the road. But this is just not a good movie, and a waste of potential with this character you can work with here. Overall, not a good movie. So let's go ahead and move on to our next film, which is Johnny Depp and Penelope Cruz in Blow.
The power can seduce you. The rush can excite you. The temptation can blind you.
I'd made $60 million and I was out clean. Well, maybe I jumped the gun on clean.
Blow, rated R.
Once again, another movie that has a lot of potential to it, but should have a lot to it, but it just really does not, even though there are those little brief flashes of promise all throughout this. You have a story here where it's based on the real-life stories of a U.S. drug trafficker George Young, played here by Johnny Depp, and his connections, including narcotics king Pablo Escobar and Carlos Zelda Rivas, portrayed in the film as Diego Delgado, and the Medellin Cartel. Ted Demme directed this movie. Nick Cassavetes was the co-writer for this. Penelope Cruz is in this film, as well as Frank Potente, Rachel Griffiths, Paul Rubens in a very different role than we're used to seeing him in. And Ray Liotta is also among the cast in here. And this should be a fascinating story to work with here. And it just really isn't, and when it's all said and done. It's a movie that borrows a lot from much better movies. Like you could definitely tell the biggest influences from this. It felt like they were trying to do an amalgamation of both Goodfellas and Boogie Nights, which is what Rotten Tomatoes' consensus actually said it was literally like. Elements seemed borrowed from other movies, from those movies. But again, it's really something that's been done over and over again. There's nothing about it that's gripping or groundbreaking to it. I guess the only real thing that I would say that makes it worth it in the end is seeing Johnny Depp evolve as an actor going forward at this point. I mean, Johnny Depp really is giving it his all with these performances, even though the movies themselves aren't turning out as good as I think they should, considering considering the films he's attached to. But a strong cast overall, some interesting ideas here and there, but when it's all said and done, the movie just really does not live up to the full potential that it really could. Like, there feels like a lot more could be done with this film in general, and it just doesn't show in this movie. And it's a shame, too, because there is a lot to it that really should make it something worthwhile, and it's just not there, man. It's a real letdown of a movie. Like, you expect so much more from it. There are brief flashes of promise, but it's just not there for me to say, I recommend this movie. It's just, and unfortunately, it's not, so yeah, another disappointment there. So that is Blow. Let's go ahead and move on to probably the best movie that came out this weekend, and yet it was one of the biggest flops that came out that weekend. Pokemon 3, the movie, Spell of the Unknown.
If you thought you knew everything about Pokemon, you can get ready to face the unknown. Pokemon 3, the movie. You can discover the secrets of the Spell of the Unknown this Friday. Rated G. Also playing with Pokemon 3, the movie, the short film Pikachu and Pichu. You can see dozens of Pokemon in their first ever animated appearance.
So in this film, you have a professor, and it's Professor Shuri, who's a scientist looking for rare Pokemon. He reads a storybook to his daughter Mii about the powerful Pokemon Entei, and Shuri is currently searching for the hieroglyph Pokemon, the Unknown, which are literally called the Unknown. And while searching through some of these ancient artifacts, Shuri awakens the Unknown and is sucked into it. Mii next awakens Unknown while looking for her father, and Unknown bonds with her and turns her mansion into a crystal tower. The crystallization begins to spread. Unknown lives to serve Mii and creates an Entei with the personality of her father to make her happy. When Mii next deserves a mother, Entei kidnaps Pokemon as Ash's mother to give to her. And so Ash, Misty, and Brock, who was back with this one, like, see, that's the one thing. That's the weird thing about Pokemon at this point. Let me just finish this up real quick. So Ash, Misty, and Brock, of course, and of course Pikachu set out to get her back. And yeah, like I said, this was a weird point in time because, you know, they made a big deal in like late '99, early 2000 about Brock leaving the Pokemon and being replaced by Tracy. In fact, the second movie has Tracy in there, and you see Brock in there for a little bit of a cameo. And then Brock comes back into the picture. Tracy that is no longer around here anymore. It's a weird situation going on here, and that's probably because of the way that Pokemon was kind of going at this point in terms of the American audience's appreciation for Pokemon, because by this point, it wasn't where it was almost 18 months ago. Because by this point in time, you know, the Johto Journey was I think, taking place. I think this takes place at the end of the third season of the show. And by that point, Pokemon was not the big success that it was a couple years prior to this. And audiences were really kind of really losing their love for this, because this thing crashed and burned at the box office. It was not a massive hit here in the U.S. It was a hit overseas, but it provided less of a significant box office compared to the other films of the series. But then again, you had a much better family film coming out at the time with Spy Kids, and the film didn't really do as well as people wanted to, and it ended up having Warner Brothers basically letting Pokemon go off to another studio. For a while, it was actually a couple films released by Disney under Miramax when they still owned Disney. But this film in particular, the craziest thing about this whole thing is that despite the box office numbers being bad, the appeal of Pokemon dropping at this point, this is probably the best Pokemon movie they've done. I mean, it's a heavy storyline. It really does have a heavy flow to it. I mean, the storyline about the little girl and this professor who, you know, like, it's really heartfelt when you really watch this movie. I mean, there's no real villains in this movie. There are no dangerous. There's nothing like extravagant in this movie. Like, one person has to be this one to rise to the occasion, but it's just a story about something that happens, and you really do get invested in the storyline of this movie, and you do get really invested in the characters, and the Pokemon characters in this movie feel like real characters in this movie. I feel like these movies got better and better right after the first movie. The second one showed a lot of showed a lot of promise to, and this is the one where it looks like a simple Pokemon storyline. It doesn't feel like it needs to be too big or too extravagant for its own good. It only needs to be bigger when it needs to be bigger. And they do a pretty good job of expanding the animation in this movie. This one's probably got the best overall animation in general in this particular movie. And it really does show in here. There's a lot of moments in here that still kind of hold up pretty well for a film that's over 20 years old. You do get invested in the storyline. You do get invested in the battles, which actually feel like real-life Pokemon battles and don't feel like something that has to be overblown and over the top or anything. But it leads to a lot of awesome things. And sadly, really, nobody went to go see this movie, which is a shame because they really did miss out on something special with this film. This is actually a well-made movie that really does feel like the best of what a Pokemon movie should be like. It also helps that you have a lot of great voice work in this particular movie, not just from, of course, the original the English cast of Pokemon, Veronica Taylor, Rachel Lillis, Eric Stewart, but you also have Dan Green, who would later go on to be a significant part of Yu-Gi-Oh!, playing Entei in this movie, and he is very good in this performance. Like, you really do buy the connection between him and Molly, who's the little girl in here. I think when I read the plot description for this was actually the Japanese version of it, because I said like Shuri, and he's actually named Sully in the English dub, and Molly Spencer in the English version, and Molly in the English version as well. But it's a really solid storyline, and you really do get invested in it. And there is a lot about this movie that works compared to the other Pokemon movies. Like, this one works the best out of all of them, and it's hilarious how this is the best one. And yet nobody went to go see it because they were just kind of done with Pokemon at this point. I mean, the zeitgeist had kind of died down pretty quickly. And like I said, there's still a ton of movies that have yet to be released. And I don't think any of them ever come close to what this movie was able to do. I still think this probably is the best overall Pokemon movie. And it's one that sadly nobody really knows about for the most part. Like, nobody went to go see it. I'm hoping that it has found an audience over time through like DVD and videos and all that, but that probably did, and I think a lot of people would agree that this would be easily the best of the three movies, no question about it. But if you have not seen this one, I'd say definitely check it out, because it's definitely much better than a lot of people gave it credit for. I think a lot of people missed out on something really special when this came out. Not much more to say about that one, Pokemon 3 the movie. So let's go ahead and move on to our last movie, which is Christina Applegate in Just Visiting.
Greatest warrior of his time. Unfortunately, he's about to be transported to ours. This spring.
It's a red dragon! We have killed it!
Time's not the only thing that's warped.
I give him to you for the day. You may beat him.
Thanks, but we just met.
Just visiting.
That's my lipstick.
Rated PG-13, now playing.
So we've actually kind of talked about some of these movies, the Visitor films. This is actually a American remake of this movie, and you have a knight and his valor, the knight once again played by Jean Reno, who are plagued by a witch, and to repair the damage they make use of the service of a wizard, played here by Malcolm McDowell. Something goes wrong, and they're transported from the 12th century to the year 2000, where they meet some of the knight's family, and slowly learns what the future is like. In order to return to the 12th century and deal with the witch, they begin to look for a wizard. And along the way, they have Christina Applegate as one of the people that helps them, and Gavin Bell's from Silicon Valley. Matt Ross is in this movie. And Kelsey Grammer also does a narration, too. You also have Tara Reid in here. Brigitte Wilson, George Plimpton, Malcolm McDowell was the wizard, Alexis Lorette, Christian Calver. Like I said, a lot of the people from The Visitors is in this movie. Written by John Hughes. A lot of people don't realize that, but this was John Hughes' This is a film that John Hughes wrote, and, he's a guy that was notoriously known for writing under pseudonyms like Edmond Dantes, and yet he decided to keep his name on this. Maybe he thought this was going to be a big hit, and, sadly it wasn't. Not here in the U.S. or even in France when these movies were popular. And also of note, this is the last film Hollywood Pictures put out before they eventually folded into Touchstone Pictures and then were later revived in 2006. Which, granted, probably is a hell of a way to go out with a terrible movie like this. But here's a funny story about this movie. You want to know how big of a disaster this was? This was released on DVD on September 11th, 2001. Maybe not funny, but it's amusing how the worst movie, the last movie Hollywood Pictures put out before they shut down, came out on one of the most tragic days in history, but I digress. And honestly, I think the biggest problem with the movie in general was that it didn't really try that hard to introduce this to American audiences where they can find a way to get into it, even if they had never seen the other movies. It felt like you had to see the other movies, the Visitor films before this, before you can actually really delve into what this movie was trying to do here. And I think that was probably their biggest mistake overall. It just wasn't a good movie. And these are very talented people in this film, but it never feels like they really meant this to be something more than just... It felt like more of another sequel rather than an actual remake. If they had tried to establish the story better compared to what they do in this movie, maybe they could have had something here. But sadly, it's not the case, and it's a real disappointment too. It's a lot of potential went into this movie, but it just never really came up as well as I think they wanted it to. And like I said, so much potential went into it, but just not enough to make it work. So yeah, that's Just Visiting for you.
It's the toast of America. To Bridget, just as she is. It's the #1 movie in the country, and the critics agree. It's tremendously funny.
It's not a chick movie, guys. There's all sorts of things you'll like. There's nudity, bad language, and violence.
Bridget rules.
She gives us a look into intimate moments that all women share.
I like big pants on a gun.
2 thumbs up. The best and smartest film of its kind in a long time. Bridget Jones's Diary. Rated R.
So this is based off of the book of the same name by Helen Fielding, who also co-wrote the script for this, and it's also kind of a reimagining of a modern reimagining of Pride and Prejudice, where you have Renee Zellweger as Bridget Jones, a 32-year-old British single woman who writes a diary who focuses on the things she wishes to happen in her life. However, her life changes when 2 men vie for her affection, portrayed by Colin Firth and Hugh Grant. And power of Richard Curtis, man. We've talked about his works before on various things, and here's another winner for him. Bridget Jones's Diary is one of those movies that it's a chick flick, but it's the kind of chick flick that appeals not just to women, but everybody involved can get something out of it. Renee Zellweger is great as Bridget Jones. She has this great charisma to her. She's very likable. Great acting from Renee Zellweger. Hugh Grant and Colin Firth have this great rivalry between the two of them in this movie and the sequels. But, I mean, it's very fun to watch. And you can tell that everybody's having a ton of fun while making this movie. This is a film that really encourages a lot of really good funny moments. Good chemistry between all 3 leads. Like, this love triangle works really well. You can really believe the relationships between both Zellweger and Firth, and also Zellweger and Grant. I think that's something that you really need for this love triangle to actually work as well as it does, compared to other movies that try to do similar things to this. And I also thought it was just funny. It's a really funny film. It showcases what Zellweger's able to do as an actress overall, and it would eventually lead to her getting an Academy Award a couple years after this with Cold Mountain. But yeah, this is a terrific, terrific film. One that I really don't think I need to say too much more of. It's definitely the best of the 3 films. The sequels aren't as good, but this one's still really a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this one a lot. Definitely check this one out if you haven't seen it. Bridget Jones's Diary. So with that said, move on to our next movie, and that is David Spade as Joe Dirt.
This spring, America will finally have someone to look up to.
What's the story here? I'm a white trash idiot. What? I'm a rocker through and through. Here's my favorite bands. AC/DC, Van Halen, not Van Hagar, Skinner.
His name is Joe Dirt.
Oh, Dirt, did I get you? Now I'm cool. No, you're not.
He gets no respect.
Don't forget to wipe your dirt. Boys got something to say to me? Why don't you talk into the microphone? I got a backup mic right here. Check 1, 2. Testing.
His job isn't glamorous.
You know what? I don't mind being here with a few hot dogs. Enough with the hot dogs. Guess I'm lucky it wasn't hot chili day today.
And even as a child, his family ditched him.
Dad! Mom! Where are you?
Now, to turn his life around,
I'm looking for my parents. I lost them at the Grand Canyon when I was 8. They ditched you, Joey.
Joe's traveling across our country, digging through the trash.
I got a picture of my parents.
Oh, I don't recognize them. And searching for his roots.
I can see down your shirt. No!
From the producing team that brought you Deuce Bigelow,
Things gonna happen for me. I'm Joe Dirt!
And Big Daddy comes the tale of a drifter.
It ain't a meteor. Yeah, it is. It came out of the sky.
This is a big old frozen chunk of toilet waste. You see the peanut?
That's space peanut.
The story of a rebel.
What is this thing?
Maybe we should take it over to that place, Los Alamos.
Yeah, Nat, that's definitely what we should do. But first, we'll shoot fireballs at it. Oh, man, we're gonna get so busted.
And the saga of a legend.
I'm in the crock biz, okay? Don't try this at home. This crock, no, not to mess with Sir Joseph's dirt. Ah, you didn't listen to me. Ah.
The adventures of Joe Dirt.
Ah. Oh, when bad bets go bad, dang.
So as you can tell, the plot revolves around David Spade as this white trash young man who at first seems to be a loser, a failure, and an anti-hero. As he travels in search of his parents, his finer qualities are increasingly revealed. He ends up with a new family of close friends, people who have helped him and respected him, and you have various people in this movie. Dennis Miller, you see there, Christopher Walken, Kid Rock has a role in this movie, and this is one of those movies that is easily a movie that you can instantly look at and see is something absolutely stupid. It's one of the most ridiculously over-the-top movies ever. But, with that said, I remember laughing at this a lot when I was little. I remember going to see this movie as a kid. And, you know, like I said with Little Nicky, it's one of those movies where, you know, if you saw it back in the day like I did, I was 12 years old when this came out. And as a 12-year-old kid, I laughed a lot. I know it's a stupid movie. It's not the best written film. It has a lot of those things that would be seen later on in the really bad Happy Madison movies, but this was still one of these movies were still kind of fun to watch all the way through, and I thought David Spade did a pretty good job in this, despite the fact that he, after Chris Farley died, when he tried to go on his own, it didn't always work out as well as it could have. Like, I know he was good on Just Shoot Me, but in terms of like the movies he made after Farley died, it just really didn't live up to. It just really shows how much Chris Farley really carried the load when they did Tommy Boy and Black Sheep. But here I thought David Spade kind of made it work. I thought it was an overall really funny film. It knows exactly what it's trying to accomplish, and for the most part, it does very much succeed in that. I thought the movie as a whole worked in general. Like I said, not the best written movie, not a smart film by any means. This is the type of movie where you turn your brain off and you go in there and you have a good time with it. And it's a really funny movie. It's a funny film that's really stupid, knows exactly what it's trying to accomplish, and it succeeds in that. I mean, I might be the only person that says that, but at least in this first movie, I thought Joe Dirt actually worked okay. Joe Dirt 2, however, no, that's a completely different story altogether. And we might get to that one in 2015, considering that didn't premiere in theaters. It was only a film that was released straight to Crackle, which should pretty much tell you everything you need to know about that one. But this one, I don't know, I thought it was alright. I thought it was fine for what it was, but that's just me. So let's go ahead and take a look at our next movie, and that is Kingdom Come.
And you be feeling just fine about however you feel about your daddy.
And the bonds that make us family.
We're gonna get through this together. When I die, don't tell nobody. Just bury me out in the backyard and tell everybody I left you.
Kingdom Come.
Are my kids driving you crazy?
Oh, no, honey, we locked them outside.
So the storyline of this movie is a mean and surly guy keels over at breakfast, his family gathers for the wake and funeral, and a long-suffering widow, a daughter who consistently eats, unemployed son who's cheating on his wife, another son who's holding a job and a loving wife, but struggles with alcoholism and their difficulty with starting a family. You have a religious aunt, her wayward son, their wealthy cousin. They all descend on this town struggling to say something nice about Bud and face the challenges of sorting out the relationships with the living. This is one of those movies that's kind of like Soul Food in a way, like a movie like Soul Food, or even a little bit of a Waiting to Exhale, except I feel like this is one where it's just kind of like, it's based off of it's based off of a play called Dearly Departed. You see a really good cast involved in this movie. Ella Cool J, Jada Pinkett Smith, Vivica A. Fox, Anthony Anderson, Tony Braxton, Whoopi Goldberg, Loretta Devine, Darius McCrary. A good cast overall in this movie. This is one that I've never really seen in full. I've only seen like little bits and pieces here and there. So I can't really say for certain if this is a good movie or not. I don't really see a lot of reviews, at least from what I'm looking at here on the Wikipedia page. Not that Rotten Tomatoes will really help out here, but it doesn't have a good Rotten Tomatoes rating. But then again, audience score is high for it, 72%, which probably means that this film definitely has more of a following than is to believe. And it was a hit when it came out. It made 3 times its budget back then, but the little bits and pieces that I saw of this movie, I thought were overall pretty good. I thought everybody, from the stuff I saw, worked okay, but there was nothing there that I only saw, like I said, little bits and pieces there, nothing enough to really say, you know, to give like a full review of this. This is what I've been wanting to get back and see at some point down the road, but I just never had the time to really go ahead and do that. But I never hear anybody really ever talk about it as this great movie. It's the most I see from it is people just going like, "That's all right, nothing too spectacular." But so I don't know. I really don't know how good this movie could actually be. I mean, like I said, I've only seen little bits and pieces of it, but from the stuff I saw, it definitely looked like it had some promise to it. So maybe this is one I'll definitely check out sometime down the road. But as far as the stuff I've seen, has some promise to it, but that's pretty much all I can give you on that one. So let's go ahead and take a look at our last movie, and that is the live-action version of Josie and the Pussycats.
Weekly raves, Josie rocks. It's the sexiest, sassiest, most stylish movie of the year. Fun, fun, fun. It's perfect.
We will always be friends first.
Irresistible, hilarious. It's Charlie's Angels meets Austin Powers.
I knew there was a reason you were so popular.
A sexy, cool comedy. You'll have the time of your life. Josie and the Pussycats, rated PG-13, now playing at theaters everywhere.
Which at the time of its release was considered to be one of the biggest bombs of in box office history, but the film wasn't a flop everywhere else. I mean, critically it did okay. It got mixed reviews for the most part. The soundtrack was a massive hit, charting as high as 16 and actually receiving gold status, and the film has since grown to have this cult following in the years since its release. This is directed by the same team that gave us Can't Hardly Wait, and pretty much follows the same story as the cartoon of the same name from Hanna-Barbera, as well as the Audrey comic series. You have this girl group, played by Rachel Lee Cook, Tara Reid, and Rosario Dawson. They're basically sent into they're basically realizing that their CEO is hiring them to put subliminal messages into their pop music to basically have their teenagers buy their stuff, and that's probably one of the things that makes this movie unique and stand out on its own compared to... I think it was just released a little too ahead of its time, because you could tell that this movie was trying to say a lot of stuff. This is a film that, because it's the satirical elements that take on American pop culture, it's a film that really, I think maybe was released a little bit too ahead of its time. Maybe a couple of years down the road, if it had released somewhere a couple of years down the road, maybe it could have found some success. But then again, you could still watch Josie and the Pussycats on Cartoon Network at this time. So, I don't know. It's tough to say. Maybe this was a little bit too ahead of its time, but then again, probably released at the right time, because I think if you release this later on down the road, I think people wouldn't have any idea who Josie and the Pussycats were. And considering Hanna-Barbera's other live-action attempts, the Flintstones, the last Flintstone movie was not a big success, the Smurfs movies, this is probably Scooby-Doo. This is probably high up there with one of their best ones. I mean, probably next to the Flintstones. I mean, I still have a soft spot for the Flintstones, the 94 Flintstones movie, not the 2000 sequel, but this actually did a pretty good job of handling this source material pretty well. You do like the camaraderie between, Rachel Lee Cook, Rosario Dawson, and Tara Reid. You really do like their friendship. You do believe that these are good friends that want to entertain people. The cast overall is top-notch in this movie. Not only do you have them, but you have people like Paula Costanzo, Missy Pyle, Alan Cumming as the head of the company, Fiona, Parker Posey is very good in this movie. You have Donald Faison. A lot of the guys from Robot Chicken are involved in this movie. Eugene Levy is in this film. Carson Daly, Britney Spears, Matt Damon, anybody you could think of. And it knows exactly what it's trying to do. It's a ton of fun to watch, and it really does have a lot about it that really does hold up well over time, considering that this movie was not the big hit when it came out. I just think it was a movie that really came out too soon. Like, I feel like if this movie had waited just a couple of years, I think maybe they could have had something that could have been a big hit, but you know what? in the years since it's come out, it has had that massive cult following. It's not even a massive cult following, but it has grown a cult following in the years since its release. And I think people are coming around to it more and more, which is good to see, because it's one of those ones that I really did not expect to like a lot the first time I saw it, but when I watched it again as of late, I was really surprised at how blown away I was by it. It's a really solid film, and one that definitely should be seeked out. Definitely check this one out, Josie and the Pussycats.
Live in the wild, but Los Angeles is another story.
Dive back, everybody.
Crocodile Dundee in Los Angeles.
Wouldn't mention this to your mom.
Rated PG, now playing in theaters everywhere. He learned survival skills in the outback. Now, he's coming to Los Angeles to hunt a different kind of prey. Paul Hogan, Crocodile Dundee in Los Angeles. Rated PG, now playing.
So, yeah, after 13 years, somebody at Paramount said, you know what we need to do? You know what was popular back in the day? Crocodile Dundee. I'm sure there's going to be an audience for it in 2001, and, yeah, not so much. This is basically, you have Australian outbacker Mick Dundee, once again played by Paul Hogan, who travels to Los Angeles with his young son while his longtime companion suspects foul play at a movie studio with one of the guys that the focus of the movie is on is Jerry Burns, another actor who hasn't really done anything of relevancy since Dear John in the 1980s. This whole movie feels like it's a movie that was lost in time, like it was literally sitting on a shelf at Paramount Pictures for 10 years, and was supposed to come out in 1991, and then all of a sudden it's just like, it's just like, hey, we found this old dusted script. See what Paul Hogan's up to. He's probably not doing anything in particular. And really, he hasn't really done anything of noteworthiness since the last Crocodile Dundee movie. Now, there's been a couple of movies where he's tried to, kind of regain his composure again, like kind of regain the thing that regained his acting abilities, but like Flipper probably was the best thing he did. But then he had stuff like Almost an Angel, Lightning Jack, and even after this movie, he really didn't do a whole lot after this movie came out. There's a couple of other things. There was like a pseudo-sequel, I guess, called The Very Excellent Mr. Dundee, which I was tempted to kind of check out, but I never really got around to doing so. But in terms of this movie, let me kind of run down quickly my thoughts on the other Crocodile Dundee movies. I thought they were fine. I thought the first one was kind of fun, seeing him go to New York City, 1980s New York City, which leads to a lot of comic potential. And I thought it was fine. Crocodile Dundee 2, thought it was fine too. But this one, I'll give it this, though. It's better than the other time that Paramount made a third movie out of an 80s comedy franchise that really didn't work, and that was Beverly Hills Cop 3, which I consider that to be one of the worst movies of all time. But this is not as bad, but it's not a great movie either. There are a couple of times when I chuckled a little bit. There were times in there when I thought, like, okay, this is actually kind of funny. I did chuckle a little bit there. There's one part where he goes to a Wendy's restaurant, and he goes to the drive-thru, and the person behind the microphone's just like, "Welcome to Wendy's," and he goes like, "Hello, Wendy." Like he thinks it's literally that's literally the person who's talking to him right now. But like little things like that, I kind of enjoyed about the movie. But other than that, though, it's really a pointless sequel. Like, this really did not need to exist in 2001. Like I said, if you did it in 1991, maybe it could have worked. Like, apparently Paul Hogan got the inspiration to do this when he went on a tour in the Czech Republic in 93, which, how do you get the Czech Republic from Los Angeles? I mean, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But something else I found interesting about this movie is that one of the writers of this movie is Matthew Berry. Now, a lot of you may not know who that name is, but if you watch Football Night in America and you see the fantasy football expert on there, that's the same guy, Matthew Berry. Everyone knows him now as like this fantasy sports analyst, fantasy sports expert, but he was actually a Hollywood writer in the early part of his career. I mean, he wrote episodes of he was a production assistant on the George Carlin Show. He was a writer on Married with Children. He wrote stuff like Gary and Mike, Oliver Bean. He's done a lot of stuff, and then just all of a sudden he had a success. It's like he didn't have the successful career as a writer, because most of the shows he worked on didn't last very long, or they were at the tail end of their long runs. But then he takes the transition over to to the sports world, and he's become a big success there. Like I said, he's one of the big contributors on Football Night in America. You see him every week on NBC. Hey, more power to him, man. I mean, it's amazing how you go from being a Hollywood writer, just writing spec scripts for a lot of shows that don't really go anywhere, to becoming one of the more well-known sports analysts on TV. I mean, that's something there. But like, I found that kind of interesting while doing the research for this. I never knew that about that. I thought that was pretty cool. But that's pretty much the only cool thing I know about this movie. Like, Paul Hogan is a likable guy. You could tell that he does put his effort into it, and he is trying his best. You know, he's trying his best to make this to make people entertain people. Quite simply, like I really do think he did go into this with the hope that maybe he can bring this character back, but it was just a little too late. Like, I mean, like I said, it's been over 10 years since the last Crocodile Dundee movie. It's just too late to do that. This is one of the pure examples of why I'm not a big fan of comedy sequels, especially ones that are way after the last movie came out, because most of the time, 9 times out of 10, they don't work. And this is one of those examples. Like I said, not a bad movie, but at the same time, it's not a great film either. It's a movie that feels really pointless, and probably should not have been made. But I'll give it this, though. It certainly was much more entertaining than the movie that we're about to talk about now. Often considered one of the worst comedies of all time, and they're right. But just hear me out. We'll delve more into it as I talk about Freddy Got Fingered. Yeah, when this movie came out, this was considered one of the worst movies of all time, and it's kind of hard not to see why if you actually see it. But the story of this movie is that you have Tom Green, who stars in the film as a childish slacker who wishes to become a professional cartoonist while dealing with his abusive father's behavior, the father played by Rip Torn, and its plot resembles Green's struggles as a young man trying to get his TV series picked up, which will later become the MTV series he became known for. And the title of the film refers to a plot point where Green's character falsely accuses his father of sexually abusing his brother, the eponymous Freddy, played by Eddie K. Thomas. And, yeah, this movie is a trip. And I will say this, though. As bad of a movie it is, as it definitely deserves to be known as one of the worst comedies ever made, there are times in this movie that I did laugh. I'm not going to lie. Like, I love dark humor, man, and this has dark humor to a T. Now, I didn't laugh at like the moments where, just random moments where, you know, like Tom Green has to like go like mess around inside of a I think it was a milk factory, or when he has to play a doctor and eat a placenta of a baby, and eat a placenta of a baby, and has this girlfriend where she's into BDSM, but she's also in a wheelchair. She has an obsession for fellatio and wants to create a rocket-powered wheelchair. Like, stuff like that didn't really make me laugh, but it's the stupid moments that just make me, like, laugh real hard. Like, the sausage scene in particular. Like, you know, when he's got all the sausages and he's playing the piano. Like, that is one of the stupidest things ever, but I'll be damned if it didn't make me laugh long and hard at that point. And, when Rip Torn beats the shit out of him, it's also really hilarious, too. Like, there's that great scene where he's in the scuba suit in the shower, and Rip Torn's just like, "Get the hell out of my goddamn scuba suit, you imbecile!" And he's throwing him through the plate glass window of the shower curtain. It's just like, stuff like that makes me laugh hard. And the cartoon that he has at the end, where it's just like the zebras and all that, like, it's a poorly written cartoon, but I'll be damned if I'm not laughing my ass off. Is that, like, it's one of those things that just, that's some of the things that you remember from this movie that are like, hey, there was some value to this movie. And I think this thing has actually gotten a reevaluation over the years, and people have actually said, you know what? This isn't as bad as we gave it credit for. Now, I'm not willing to go that far. I still think there is a lot about this movie that's not great. A lot of things that I really do not like about the movie. And it's a bad movie. No question about it. It's a bad movie. it's one of those movies that we talked about with some other movies that they were trying to create the next Fairly Brothers style hit, especially at 20th Century Fox. And this was another one of those ones where they tried to create a hit out of it, and it just didn't work. But like I said, it has gained a lot of reappreciation over the years. I don't know if that's a good kind of appreciation, or it's one of those it's so bad it's good type of things, which I'm guessing maybe that's the case, but who knows? But yeah, it's not a great movie by any means, but it has those moments that you will remember forever, whether you think it's funny or just not. It's a trip, man, and I would honestly say check it out if you want to see a really, really bad movie, because this is, no matter what I say about it that's good, Freddy Got Fingered is a really, really bad movie, plain and simple.
Good luck today.
To race with courage.
Everyone falls down. It's just how fast you get up.
Love with passion.
Don't blow this. Not over her.
To risk it all.
I can't do that. Don't overdrive the car.
You must be driven. Rated PG-13. Starts Friday, April 20th.
Franchise pictures, because you know it's going to be a winner. Oh, God. Oh, boy, this movie. So, basically, the story of this movie is that even though Stallone wrote this movie and his name is on the front of this, he's not really the star of the movie. It's more of an ensemble film, which I have to give him credit for it. That's something I thought was pretty interesting of him to do. It's too bad the movie doesn't have anything of warrant to really keep it together, though. You have a young racer's driving effort to win the Kart FedEx Championship Series Auto Racing Championship. And Stallone basically went to many Formula One races, but he was unable to get enough information about the category due to the secrecy for which these teams protect their cars. So instead of focusing on that, he decided to base the film on the Champ Car League. A league that was not even around by this point. It didn't even exist until 2004. And didn't even last 4 seasons. So this thing was already dated before the thing they're basing this on even took place. That should be warning sign number 1 to stay the hell away from this movie. Warning sign number 2. It's every bad thing. It's every bad element of the biggest films of 2001. 2 of the biggest films of 2001: Pearl Harbor and The Fast and the Furious. Imagine those two brought together and written by a guy who clearly is writing something that's clearly past his prime. Like, this is like, Stallone could be a great writer, but man, you're trying to write stuff like this for a younger generation, and it's bad. It's a bad movie on so many levels. Stallone is kind of wasted in this movie. Burt Reynolds is in this film. Gina Gershon, Estella Warren, who's really annoying in this movie. The two guys in here, Till Schweiger and Kip Pardue. God, they're so annoying in this movie. Everybody in this movie is just so annoying. You hate every single person in this movie. And it's pretty clear this movie has no idea what the hell they're trying to accomplish here. This thing has a budget of close to $100 million. And if you watch this movie, you would have no idea what the hell they were thinking about doing. Like, this makes the early CG in the first Fast and Furious movies look like classics. Looks like pure perfection compared to what the hell they do in this movie here. There's just nothing in this movie that works at all. This is a film that's just like... And he wrote this 25 times. He had 25 different drafts of this movie. And he also said this was autobiographical. It's just like, do you really have any idea what the hell you're doing, Stallone? Like I thought Expendables 4 was the worst you could do. But you know what? Jason Statham and Megan Fox were the best things about that movie, even though you barely had anything to do with that one, even though that was your baby. But this is bad. This is really, really bad. I mean, this is a movie that is just an abomination on so many levels. A plot that makes no sense whatsoever. It's a terrible movie. Like, even Stallone himself has gone back and said that, yeah, this was a big mistake on his part. But, yeah, this is a bad movie. And for Rennie Harlan, who was coming off of some pretty good hits at the time, Deep Blue Sea was a good, fun, guilty pleasure movie, a so bad it's good type of film. You know, The Long Kiss Goodnight, Cliffhanger before that, a couple of movies before that. Like, this was a film that kind of was like the beginning of the downfall for him, because he never made another movie that was notable after this point. Like, you know, Exorcist: The Beginning, The Covenant, you know, 12 Rounds, that movie with John Cena in it, and everyone remembers. By everybody, I mean nobody, not even John Cena. But, no. It's a bad movie, man. It's just a terrible, terrible movie. It's not interesting. The racing elements make no sense whatsoever. The characters are bad. It's just a poorly made movie on so many levels. It's a bad film, plain and simple. But we're only just digging into the good stuff. We're just getting started here. We're just digging into the pile of shit. So let's go ahead and move on to our next masterpiece of assness, and that is Town and Country. And yes, there's going to be a lot more swearing in this episode because, man, this was a rough week. So let's talk about the infamous flop Town and Country.
To a successful marriage. Number 1, resist temptation.
You haven't once ever thought about it?
Several times. Number 2, resist temptation.
You should have a thing. You didn't speak English. It doesn't count. I know that.
And number 3, resist temptation.
All your possessions are in your name. You advised you on this. You did.
Right. Town and Country. Rated R. Starts Friday, April.
So on paper, this movie doesn't seem too bad. I mean, you've got Warren Beatty, Diane Keaton, Goldie Hawn, Gary Shandling, Andy McDowell, Jenna Elfman, Nastasia Kinski, Charlton Heston, and Josh Hartnett. And you also have a co-written by Buck Henry, who the last time Beatty and Henry worked together, they gave us Heaven Can Wait, and that's a classic movie. You know, Beatty and Keaton were together in Reds. Beatty and Hawn were in Dollar and also Shampoo together. I mean, you have a good director in Peter Kelsom, who has directed a couple movies we've talked about, Funny Bones and The Mighty. So really, where did this movie go wrong? Yeah, it turns out this movie began production back in 1998 with a budget of $44 million. This thing cost $105 million to put together. This thing took almost 4 years to make. They had to reshoot the movie. And basically what happened was that Shandling left the production because the script had to be redeveloped. Diane Keaton left to direct her movie, and it took a full year to get everybody back together with these new pages. Buck Henry basically had to rewrite the script because, hey, it worked with Heaven Can Wait, and they had to rewrite the script all together again. So they basically added all these new scenes with Henry joining the cast. There's a new climax they added to the movie. They added more scenes in this film, and like I said, the thing went to $105 million for a film that was supposed to start at $44 million. Even at $44 million, there was no way this movie was going to sell, especially if you see the trailer, the long trailer for this. But man, like, this is one of those movies that's just like, it's just such a disaster on so many levels. Like, one critic, I think, said it best. It's the rare movie that can't seem to decide whether it wants to be Freddy Got Fingered or Hannah and Her Sisters. It's that bad of a movie. Like, it's... When you have to compare it to Freddy Got Fingered of all movies, you know you screwed up big time. And for Warren Beatty, this is not the second time in the last 15 years where he's had a notorious bomb. Of course, we have Ishtar, but even then, Ishtar had its moments to it. Like, Ishtar was not a bad movie. It was just an overblown movie that just had a lot of moments in there. It was just completely unnecessary. But this... Like, if you have to wait for 4 years, 3-4 years for this movie to get made, you just need to call it quits. Just shelve the movie. Like, nowadays it's become a common thing to shelve movies that you don't believe in, even though they can be completely wrong about that. But this is just like this thing should not have made it to theaters. Like, this is such a disaster on so many levels. Like, it's a film that has gone on to become one of the most worst comedies ever made, one of the worst movies ever made. And it literally left Warren Beatty with nothing to do for 15 years. Because he wouldn't return again until he made another movie with Rules Don't Apply in 2016, which was a bad movie. It was in my bottom 10 for the worst movies of 2016. But it's like Citizen Kane compared to this train wreck of a movie. Like, nothing about this movie makes any sense whatsoever. And they're lazy attempts at trying to add sex, trying to be a sex comedy. That's just like... It's just a colossal failure, man. This is a movie that just has no idea what they could do to save it. It shouldn't have been saved at that point. Like, once they stopped production, it's at the end of '99. They should have just said, "Let's call it a day, guys. This isn't working anymore." And like, but it's here, and it's often considered one of the worst movies ever made, one of the worst comedies ever made. And quite frankly, I do not blame them one bit, because this is as bad as you think it's gonna be. With all the talent they have in this movie, it's a complete mess on so many levels. Just horrible, horrible movie. So let's go ahead and get to the best movie of the week, which really is not saying a whole lot at all, and it's not even that great of a movie. That is The Forsaken.
Well, lucky you came along. Most people wouldn't stop out here at night.
They prey on the living.
She's infected. What do you mean infected? How?
They will possess you.
You kill the source of the origin. You kill the strain.
Forsaken.
Open the trunk.
Opens everywhere.
When I say it's the best movie, I say it's the most consistent movie because it at least knows exactly what it's trying to do and what it's trying to be. It doesn't do it well, but it isn't a huge failure like the other three movies we're looking at. So basically you have a movie that's basically described as a road movie with vampire hunters. The story follows a young film trailer editor on a cross-country business trip throughout the Arizona desert who picks up a shady hitchhiker and along the way encounters a disoriented young woman who's being stalked by a vampire cult. Now, on paper, it doesn't really sound like a whole lot, but compared to the other movies we have this week, it's the one that is at least consistent. Consistently bad, but still consistent because it's at least trying. It's trying to entertain the audience that is specifically going for here. Like, it's going specifically for the MTV crowd, the teen demographic, the date night people. This is a film that people went to go see on the first weekend. Were successful because they went on a date and then they never saw it again afterwards because there was nothing of value to it whatsoever. And it's exactly what we have here. It's a film that obviously knows what it's trying to do. It's at least trying to get entertained. It doesn't work, but at the same time, it's at least trying, and that's the big thing. It's trying. The other movies we've talked about weren't even trying. They were just... This is a movie that's at least attempting at trying to be entertainment, and sadly, it's not, but I give it more credit than any of the other movies we're going to look at here because it's at least consistent on trying to be something. So, if that's the best thing I could say about this movie, then you know it's a rotten weekend if this is the best thing that came out. But let's go ahead and wrap this week up on a high note. It's One Night at McCool's. Even the marketing for this movie was just bad. The storyline of this movie here is that after a hard night at McCool's, bartender Randy, played by Matt Dillon, runs into Jewel, played by Liv Tyler. The seductive lady seems to have evaded a rape pretty closely, and when the man comes back, she puts a bull in his hand, and after all these events, Randy takes Jewel home, and the two become a couple, yet Jewel begins to develop into a very demanding girlfriend and drives Randy into committing crimes for her and her elaborate lifestyle. Randy's cousin Carl, played by Paul Rysher, is driven crazy by Randy's incredible sexy girl, as well as the investigating officer, played by John Goodman. And, yeah. There's the problem with the movie. I have no idea what the hell is going on in this film. Nobody really does. All it's riding on is, hey, Liv Tyler is sexy. You know, that's more than you need to sell the movie. And, yeah, it doesn't sell the movie. In fact, it does anything but that. Oh, Michael Douglas is also in here, too. So is Reba McEntire, so is Richard Jenkins, and, hey, Helen Hunt has a cameo in here. Remember when Rysher and Helen Hunt were Mad About You? That was fun. This movie is not fun. This is a film that just has so many problems to it. From a story perspective, from what the hell the purpose of the movie is trying to be. And again, it's one of those movies that's trying to be the next There's Something About Mary. Like, it's trying to be that raunchy comedy that just can't... it's not working. Like, if it's not funny and you don't have a plot to work with here, nobody is going to go see this movie. And sure enough, they do not have a plot here. They don't have a story to go with here. It's not a good movie. It's a bad film. Like, it's not funny. It's not sexy. It's not trying to do anything unique or interesting. It has no idea what it's trying to do. It's just trying to sell you on the sex appeal and then get out of there. And it doesn't work. People bought it, and people were lucky enough to buy, and people were smart enough to stay away from it. It was a flop when it came out. and thank God for that, because I couldn't wait. It's because I was hoping. Toy boat. I'm so mad. I'm getting flustered right now, but because Two Night at McCool's would have been just too much for me to handle. But anyway, like I said, I'm getting flabbergasted for nothing here. That's all I gotta say about this one. One Night at McCool's. God, Lord, that was a rough week.